Hey everyone. Okay, let me just quickly set up my camera. Hi everyone. Uh, I mean, you can obviously see that the stream had been delayed because of things that I could not control. You know, apparently I had not set up OBS right, but I think I've got a good handle on it now. Also evident by the fact that I'm looking at the stream health and it's looking good. If it does dip, do let me know, and I'll see what I can do to improve the health of the stream. That being said, for right now, let's get into the topic of why we are here today. Today, I want to draw a comparison between two of the most popular routers. Actually, one is very popular already. The other, well, the author is popular, and the things that he has made are popular. So, without any further ado, I'm trying to make a comparison between ReactRouter and the TanStack Router. TanStack Router comes from, as you guessed it, TanStack, which is essentially a library by Tanner Lindsay, the author of React Query, one of the most popular and my personal favorite data fetching and caching libraries. So let me take you guys to my the screen. I hope you guys can see this. Okay. Not really the best day to make this stream, but you know what, I must. Let me open the terminal and let me go to the desktop and make a directory called very first of all, let me make this bigger. I know that my screen is very high resolution, so you may have some problem reading from it if it's too small, so I'll make it bigger. Okay, I hope y'all can read this. Okay, so as I was saying, I'll make a new directory. I'll call it Battle of the Routers, very imaginatively, right? Okay, so in here, let's first talk about what we know already. So by that I mean, let's first talk about ReactRouter. Okay, and to demonstrate that, I'm gonna have to instantiate a React project, which I'm going to do right now with the help of Vite or White, Wheat, whichever way you call it. Let's just call this project. Oh, we didn't get inside the Battle of the Router project. Let me just. Okay. I'll do this again. Yarn create Vite and React router. We'll make it with React with TypeScript. Let's get inside the React router project and install the dependencies. That's what we're going to do, the very first thing. Okay, that was quick. I didn't expect it to be this quick. I want to talk to you guys in the meantime, but since this is done already, let me open this up in a code editor of your choice. For me, that's VS Code. For you, it can be anything that you want. I'll make it this big. I hope it's readable for you all. It's legible, right? And this is the classic project that Vite initializes. I'll show you that it works. I'll simply open this up. It's exposed to this port. If I control click here, it should open it up in a new window, Firefox window. That's my default browser. I hope y'all can see it. Y'all can? Oh, one sec. I don't think y'all can see it. Can y'all see it now? I know. Maybe just make it bigger. Okay, the entire screen should be visible. Okay, and you click on the count, you can see the count. That's as much as it is. That's just a very basic project. Okay, so And I think this is a bit bigger. Let me make just a tad bit smaller. I hope you guys can still see it. So what I'll do is get rid of all of this. Just the default code. I'll get rid of the CSS here. I'll get rid of the SVGs. Don't need them. Get rid of this. And in fact, let me get rid of this too. Just a function that returns JSX. I'll go to main.tsx, get rid of a few files. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to get rid of index.css. I'm only going to, how do I put it? Comment it out. Get rid of, well, everything else stays. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this in just a little while. I hope the camera is configured properly because I can see it drooping to a side. I hope I'm not looking strange. I hope this is better. Yeah, I need to upgrade my setup, but that can wait. Okay. This looks good. This looks fine. Nice. Sorry guys, I had to check with my camera. Anyway, right, where were we? Yes, here. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of this class name as well, and just write there the classic developers message, which is hello world, and it shows hello world. Our program is running. Big up. Okay, so what I'll do is I will add ReactRouter DOM to this project and show you a quick demonstration of how that works. I will deliberately not go into the details simply because you're watching this video. I assume you know this already, right? I'm here to contrast those changes. This is not necessarily an explainer video for ReactRouter DOM. I'll do that anyway. Okay. So to do that, I need to, let me stop this process, or I can just simply add it onto the terminal. Let me add it onto the terminal. And let's call this yarn add React router DOM. It will resolve all those packages. I'm going to have to restart my Vite server as well, which I'll do just now. It has resolved. Now, that means I can use it here in some capacities. Okay. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an empty import. What I mean by that is I'm just going to import something from ReactRouter DOM. That's something that's going to be a bunch of higher order components. I'll tell you which ones. The first one is going to be called browser router. I'm going to alias it out, and I'm going to alias it out and going to call it router, then routes, then route. Okay. And I'll explain, maybe not in a lot of detail, but I'll explain each one of this, what each one of this means. If only I can speak for that matter. Okay. So I'll start with browser router, which I've aliased out as router. Let me write this down here. And what it simply does is that it defines, it's essentially a wrapper component which defines the domain of where your ReactRouter DOM will be active. So anything outside of it, I won't be able to use any other ReactRouter DOM component inside it, outside of it. So it essentially defines the boundaries of the ReactRouter. That being said, what I'll do is I'll give myself a few pointers. Let's just type this here and let's leave myself a message for later. I'll deal with it later. Okay. And once I've done this, I need to tell the system, I need to tell React which pages to route, where will they be found, and how to route them. Okay, I'm sorry guys. Somebody at the door. So routes essentially define the pages which can be routed inside it. And how do I define those pages? I'm going to use route this component. Okay. And it takes a couple of attributes, something like a path attribute, which tells us what is going to be the path, and element attribute, which essentially takes a component, essentially takes JSX, right? So any function returns the JSX, essentially a component returns the JSX. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find my way around it, and I'm going to just simply write a function right here. Now this is not necessarily the best practice, and I ask you not to do this in production, but since this is just a demo, I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm just returning hello world from here inside an empty fragment. Okay, and this should work. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to call this about, and the element should be this from the about page. I'm sorry guys, there's a lot of noise coming from the background. People are just moving in and out of the room. Anyway, so this is how it should look. My page should resolve to hello world, which is the home page, home route on slash. Let's see if it does. It does. It actually does. Well, I'm glad it works. It would have been very awkward if it didn't. Let me just see if the rest of it works. If I put about here, does it work? It does. But as you can see, it's kind of not, very conducive to having to go to the URL, type it out there. If it's the entire purpose, what we're going to do is we're going to make links so that we can, essentially create a nav bar so that we can make those navigation easy. And I've, like, you saw, I've given myself a task that I have to make a nav bar here. Now, a nav bar can work. You can simply make an href, an anchor tag, and give it an href attribute, and while it would work, it would not maintain state because it would restart the entire application every time you go to a new route. Okay, which is not the experience we want. So what we'll do is we'll import another component called link, and we're going to use that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say link and home and about. I know that it's giving me the errors. It's expecting some attributes without which it just won't work. So let me just give those attributes. The first attribute it asks is what is it that it wants on touch. Sorry, what is it that it wants? What do you want to link it to? I want to link it to slash. Okay, and same. It's the same process with the second one, which is what do you want to link it to? I want to link it to slash about. Okay, and now, yeah, right. This should work. Let me just put this inside a div so that it's separated out into a block level element, and the rest of it can go to different line. What I'll also do is I'll put a horizontal rule here. Remember, this is just a demo. You probably not code this the way I'm doing it right now, but what I'm doing is I'm just giving you a demonstration of what it does. Okay, so this is coming from the about page. Let's go to home. This is coming from home page. Let's actually write this is coming from home page. Okay, so hello homepage. Great. And VTA does the HMR hot module reloading for me, so I don't have to reload it. And I know Next has just released Turbo Pack. This is clearly not Next, and as and when we have a way to incorporate Turbo Pack, I think I will entertain that idea. Okay, and that's this demo. Now there are a couple of pointers that you guys can do for yourself. You can split components into their own directories structure. That's something you can do. That's an exercise I'm leaving for you guys, and you can, you know, make component component for navbar and just put everything out there. You can essentially clean this file, make it split the code, clean this file, and that should look good, right? But the thing is, even after you clean all of this, it's still going to have a lot of scaffolding and boilerplate code on the main app.tsx, which is not necessarily required. So you'll still have router, routes, and all of this, which not necessarily required on the app.tsx page. Sorry, app.tsx file. I just, you know, sometimes my mind does a... Anyway, so that's the project. I'm going to shut it out for now, and in just this tab, actually I'll open another tab. I'll go out. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration of TanStack Router. Okay, so just like we did with the ReactRouter, I'm going to say, what am I typing? I'm going to say yarn create wheat, and I'm going to call this TanStack Router. The same configuration. Use it with React and TypeScript. Go inside, and I'm going to install everything. Okay, and while that happens, there's also a bunch of other dependencies that I want to install. Most notably, this is why I didn't style the other project. I just let it be very, you know, how do I put it? I just let it be very archaic because I wanted to incorporate, I want to show you a way of doing this with incorporating Tailwind, right? So, which is something I'm going to do right now. I'm going to install the TanStack Router and do that too. So, first things first, let me first install the TanStack Router. So, I believe it's yarn add @TanStack slash ReactRouter. Yeah. And it'll ask me for the exact package, which one do I want to install. I am going to go for this 0.0.1 beta / beta. Actually, this is the one that I want. Okay. Now, let me also install and configure. Let me first actually get done with all the dependencies that I want. So now that I want to install Tailwind, right? So yarn add -d Tailwind CSS, and I don't want it to be a dev dependency. I want it to be a proper dependency. Do I want it to be a proper dependency? No, actually, dev dependency, because the setup that I'm going to do, it's going to make sense in a while, but it's going to, you know, spit out in the final folder. It's going to spit out a proper CSS, which is going to be understood by the final files, right? The final deployment. Tailwind CSS. I also want post CSS. I also want auto prefixer. Okay, that's all the dependencies that I want. Once we have them, what is this? Why do I need to do this again? That was strange. Anyway, TanStack Router. I've installed everything that I wanted to. Now let me generate the Tailwind CSS and post CSS config files. I can do that by simply doing Tailwind CSS in it and giving it the exact package name. I want this exact package name, whichever one's the latest one. Let me open this finally in my code editor, which is this. And let me quickly have a look at the package.json file. Yeah, so this is what I was concerned about. I want the beta 11 version. Okay. Let me get rid of the node module files from here. There's the reason I'm doing this. I actually did this while I was practicing, about this this video. I realized that Tanner has released a new Tanner has made a new release which had some breaking changes. So I'm going back to the last working change that I had on his GitHub as well. It's not really working right now. The tests and everything are failing. So I thought that, let's just do it this way. So with that out of the way, I can finally run it and just see that if it's running. First of all, is this running? Let me close this and see where this is running. Close this. I believe it's now going to run on the 5173. So it's going to refresh this. Great. It's running. Now let me make some changes in the tsconfig tailwind config file. I want tailwind to target. This is the source folder. This is the source folder, and okay, we have an assets folder as well. Great. So I want tailwind to target inside the source folder. // all the files inside it with the following file types. So tsx, ts, jsx, js. I believe that is going to do the magic. And let me go to the index. Let's get rid of everything here. I'm going to call tailwind base. Utilities components. I believe I've imported everything that I needed to. Let's have a look at this. You'll see that the styles are a little different, right? It's because I've gotten rid of the default styles and I've put the tailwind styles here. So to make that effect, let me go to app.tsx. Okay. And let's get rid of everything from here till here. And I believe if I've done everything right, tailwind should take effect from here. Okay. So what I'll do is let's just this be an outer div. I'm not going to make any changes with this. Let this be a placeholder for my navigation bar for now. Okay. And I'm gonna have a look at the camera real quick, because just about any time it should reset. Yeah, that's something my camera does. It just resets after what, 30 odd minutes. I'm gonna do this manually so that it doesn't happen in the course of the stream. Okay, it's going to stay this way for the next 30 minutes. Great. As I was saying, let this be the placeholder for my nav bar. I'm going to give it some classes, some tailwind classes. I'm going to resolve them using the string literals of JavaScript, which is pure vanilla JavaScript. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a flex and a flex row reverse. Great. Beyond which, no, not this. I'm going to make 3 of the divs. Call this 1, 2, 3. Now if I've done this properly, they should appear not towards the left, but towards the right of the screen and in the opposite order of which they are written. So, moment of truth. Oh yes, they are. I'm just, so relieved, so relieved. Dude, it would have been such a, I know how to put it. It would have been such an embarrassment if they didn't resolve the way I did, the way I intended them to. Okay. Now, now that you have Tailwind in effect, you can manipulate them in any little way that you want. Okay. So, for example, I can give it a padding on the x direction of 5 and give it to all of its siblings. There is a better way of doing this. I want you guys to tell me a better way of doing this. Essentially, you know, split it into a different piece of code into one component, put it there, map over everything, and that's what you have. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, great. Let's not do this. Let's just call it a simple row. It's 1, 2, 3, and we'll put our you know, like I said, this is going to be the placeholder for nav bar. So we're going to put our nav elements here. So home, about, and contact. Great. Looks okay, not too good to be honest, but for now it works. Let me just give it a horizontal rule. Great, that works. Looks somewhat better. Of course they don't work right now. They don't take us anywhere. They're not buttons. They're not any links. We'll figure this out in just a short while. Let me I already imported the TanStack library, right? So it's about time I just simply go on and do some stuff with it. Just make the routing happen. Oh, I didn't get rid of this. Let me do that quickly from here. I'll get rid of all of these. Don't need them. Make sure my project is still running. Oh, it is. Is this better? I think this is better. Great. The app.js was still giving it some, you know, properties. Don't want them. Okay. Now, there is a bunch of things that I want to import from the TanStack ReactRouter library. I'm gonna give it just placeholder for now. From TanStack ReactRouter, and the things that I want are these. Outlet. I'll give you a sense of whatever I'm doing in just a little while. Actually, let me just first do this. Create route config. So what it does is, actually, you know what, I'll show you this. Let this be a comprehensive demo. Okay, so instead of doing this, I'll put the router here. Okay, and I'll take, actually, just let me just put this here for now. I'll do the code splitting sometime later. Okay, so create route config is a function that is provided to us by TanStack ReactRouter, which allows us to define the configuration of how our routing is going to look. So you can on the very base, you can create your routes, and then you can add what paths would they resolve to, what element, what component would they show, and so on and so forth, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to simply call this function create route config, and it has another, call this as a function. Now within this I have another function available to me, which is create children, and create children takes a callback function, which, okay, so I'm going to make a callback function, and this callback function takes a parameter called create route. As you can see, it's provided to us by TanStack, the TanStack library that we are using right now, right? The TanStack ReactRouter library, and it returns an array of all the routes. And how do we define those routes? By using this create router parameter that we have. Now this create router is a function. Sorry, create route is a function. So create route It is a function that takes an object with the definition of the route that you want. So takes a path. I want this to be slash, and it also takes an element. For now, I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to define 2 more of these. Okay, let's call this about, and let's call this contact, just to reflect the nav that we have made. Home, about, and contact. So home, about, contact. The elements for these, I'm just making the placeholder folders for them, and I'm going to leave this to you guys as an exercise to do this. So components, okay, and don't worry, I'll put all of this code on GitHub so that you guys have access to this. Okay, so for these purposes, I'm simply going to make very simple components just right here. So let's say for the for the slash for home, let's make an index. Okay, so let's call this function index, or in fact let's call this home. Okay, and since it's a since it's a React component, it is supposed to return some JSX. That's what we're going to do. So let's just return some JSX, and let's just write proper functions. Let's just write arrow function const home equal to, I don't want any props right now, so I'm not going to get any props. It's just going to return some JSX, which is what I'm going to put here. So it's going to be an h3 tag, and I'm going to say welcome home with TanStack Router. Great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to resolve home here. Okay, so great. For the purpose of just making sure that everything works, let me just put it everywhere. So even though ideally it should be an error, it should still resolve everywhere. Oh, one more second. It's called component. Now what's the error? Type element is not okay. Yeah, doesn't take a JSX element, doesn't take a JSX component, just the name. So I've made a route config. I'll create 2 more. I'll call this route, and instead of an h3, let me have an h2 here and say hello, let me tell you about myself. Okay, and on the contact, I'm going to do an h3 again actually, and I will say always ready and glad to connect. And I'm going to go ahead and give you my Twitter ID. Please go on and connect with me there. It's called Sarthak Patra. Okay, twitter.com/Sarthak Patra. Yeah, go on and connect with me there. I usually post a lot of stuff there. Let's call this contact, right? Great. So let's call this about. Let's call this contact. And what we are going to do is we're going to have a quick look at the documentation and API as well. And there's a reason I stopped at the point where I did in React Router. It could do many other things. It could take search params, query params. I didn't go there. There's a reason for that. I'll just show you. So I've made it this way. I've defined all the components, and it should work now. What do you think? Right? Well, let me not build stupid suspense. It won't work. Simply because first of all, we have not defined the domain of where it's going to work, right? Like we did in React Router. So the very first thing is we need to define that. We need to tell it where it's going to work. So essentially a router provider. Okay. And to create that router provider, we need to feed it with the router. Now, how do we create a router? To create a router, we need the route config. Okay, which actually we just created. So we created the route config, right? Now let's capture this into a constant. Call this route config. Okay. Let's call this into a variable called route config. And from this, let's create a router. So let's create React router. As I import it, as I write it, it gets imported by itself. Okay. So create React router. It's a function that takes an object of route config, route config. But since this is ES6, I can simply write this. Okay. This is what this is like. This finally returns the router. Let's capture the router here. Const router is equal to router. Now comes the interesting part. Okay. So remember how I put all these divs here. Let me just get the router provider. Why is it not? Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to import it from the TanStack library. As you can see, my editor is suggesting me to import it from the TanStack library. The moment I click on it, it gets imported right up. Just keep an eye out on it. There you go. Let me close this. Let me put this on the next line, and let me bring this here. Now this defines the domain of where it works. Okay. And it's giving an error. I know why it's giving an error. It is giving an error because it expects the router configuration that we just made on line 19, right? So I'm going to give it, it's going to ask an attribute of router, and I'm going to pass the router that we just made, and that should solve everything. Okay. And it would actually still not work. So this is where TanStack Router is different from React Router. In React Router, this much is enough. It should tell you, but it should show whatever you're trying to show. But this is where the difference is, right? So in React Router, there's this component that you use, which is called routes, which essentially defines where the actual routes render. We have a similar component in TanStack Router. It's called outlet. Okay, so if I write outlet here, it will import it and it will put it here. There you go. Let it be self-closing. Great. So now it should work as expected, which is not working as expected. Funny, huh? Funny how that works out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, from the router, I'm going to get the link and to slash. Let me just make this quick. I don't know if this is the reason it's not working, but let's find out. Okay. I am going to write this here. It should hopefully now work. Why is it not working? Let me just have a look. Okay. Let me do it this way. Let me put an element here actually. Doesn't support element. Good. You know what? I'm going to do the easy thing, which is cut everything from here, declare it before I'm using it here, and I want to get rid of the create route. I don't know how it got imported, but don't necessarily need it. So once that happens, this should now work. Oh yes, so I have a home, about, and contact. Click on home, welcome home with TanStack Router. Click on about, hello, let me tell you about yourself, and contact, always write in glad, not flat, to connect. Twitter.com/Sarthak. And that, guys, is your demonstration. So there is, of course, more to TanStack Router. You know, query params and all, but you won't really see it right now simply because the router documentation is not necessarily complete, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you go here, if you go to installation with React, this is what I just made. Install the dev tools, and you know, this is some of the things that ReactRouter supports. So it supports code splitting, as you saw. I can easily split everything into different pieces of code and use it there, and it's much better in many ways. Not necessarily better, but different. And you know, I have a bit of a bias towards Tanner's library simply because I've used it for so long, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's one of my favorites. So once I've done that, I've created the route configs, I've given the route paths, I've given it a router and links. All of these things, as you see on his website, are to do, and I don't want to get ahead of myself and, you know, do route matches and search params before they are here. So it's a lot of things that are to do, loaders, actions, which I've not done yet myself either, simply because they are still to do on his library. I have a few suggestions. Tanner, if you are seeing this, I have a few suggestions that I can give you. I've already figured few of these things out. I've tried my way around, and things work the way I want them to. And I have a few, you know, like I said, a few suggestions if you're open to taking them. And yeah, that's about that. Hi guys, Tana, if you're seeing this was a fun demonstration, fun thing to write out, and I really enjoyed working with your library, as I have with working with React Query, right? So that's that, guys. This is a very unconventional stream, kind of, you know, unscheduled to say, because I was, and you know what, the first half an hour was spent trying to debug the stream. That happened too. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. And if there's something that you'd like me to change in my setup that I've made right now, do let me know. I have whatever this setup is. I'm trying a few things out. So there are some changes. If there are changes that you guys would like to suggest, do let me know, and I would definitely incorporate them. Okay. And yeah, I think that's that for the stream today. I am going to leave you with this lovely you know, outro that I created with this song. I'm sure you guys will recognize. I'll see you around the next time, hopefully very soon. I'll try to make this a weekly occurrence, but even if not, I'll see you around next time very soon. With that, bye guys, good evening. I'll see you around next time.